Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Stevie. This is Stevie Reads, and today we are doing a book haul for all of the books that I have purchased since the beginning of the year. So this is actually my first ever book haul. Obviously not ever, but like filming, because I normally don't keep track. Like, I obviously, when I get the book, I add it to my Goodreads list, but I recently started a notes app at the beginning of the year. So every time I bought a book, I added it to the notes app, and I have a couple of boxes to unbox, but we're gonna go in order since the books I got from the beginning of the year. So some of them are already on my shelf because I unboxed them and put them on there, but we'll start with those, then we'll do the unboxing later. Taking all of my self-restraint to not open them. Like, when you get a box, you just want to open it. Anyway, we are going to start off with the first book. First, like 8 books are all from Book Outlet, which, if you don't know what that is, it's a website where they take the books that have been damaged, or maybe some bookstores just have an excess of stock, and they sell them at a very discounted price. So some of these books I was just mildly interested in, but I saw them on Book Outlet and I was like, you know, it's $6, I can't not get it. So anyway, we're just gonna jump right into it. The very first book being The God of Endings by Jacqueline Holland. It's like a historical vampire book set in New York. So all of those things kind of piqued my interest. A lot of people said that it's like a lit fic vampire book, which very much interests me. Like, I love a vampire story, but I also love a story where the vampiric element isn't the main force of the story. Also, Books and Lala gave it 4 stars and said that the writing was really, really good. So that also just made me very interested. I will try to mention the people as much as I can, but I am heavily influenced by BookTube. So if I see a creator that I follow and I love and I trust their opinion give a book a high rating, then it's kind of just in my brain as something to keep an eye out for. And I remember Lala reading this and really enjoying it. So yeah, this is the first book. The next one is Immortal Longings by Chloe Gong. I also have this author's other book, These Violent Delights, and I still haven't read that one. It is on my young adult shelf and I definitely do want to read that. I've just heard that the second book, it's a duology, and I heard that the second book isn't very good, so it's making me nervous to pick up the first one. But it did not stop me from picking this one up. So I was excited to pick this up because it's her first adult book, and also because Lala gave it 5 stars. So yeah, clearly I was just very heavily influenced by Books and Lala, which I'm sure a lot of people on BookTube are as well. But she gave this 5 stars and I was actually pretty shocked by that. Next up is Under the Influence by Noelle Crooks, and I have never heard anybody talk about this book. So this was like, when I was scrolling through, I saw the cover and I was really intrigued, and it is like compared to The Devil Wears Prada because the plot of it is basically this, the main character becomes an assistant to an influencer and has to move to a different state. I believe she moves to Nashville, and I just really like that kind of story. I love The Devil Wears Prada, obviously, and I loved the cover. I love the pink and the green. I just thought it was really beautiful, and I rearranged my shelves recently so that my adult literary fiction books have 3 shelves now instead of 2. So when I was on Book Outlet looking at books to buy, I was really letting myself just get as many adult lit fics as I could, because now, you know, the shelf is a little bit empty. Not really even anymore since I've been hauling books, but it was my shelves that needed the most love. And I was like mildly interested in this one, and I was like, well, I can throw it on that shelf. So yeah, I really just talked myself into this, but it is a beautiful hardback. The front says it's fast-paced and fun, so yeah. Next up is going to be The Whispers by Ashley Audrain. So I read this author's debut novel, The Push, and I really liked The Push when I read it. I believe like almost 2 years ago now. I gave this one 4 stars. It's not a thriller in the typical sense, but you're never comfortable. It has a very like unsettling atmosphere. So really love this book. If you are thinking of becoming a mom, I don't recommend this because this book made me terrified to be a mom one day. Like, oh my god. People are saying the same things about this one. It has a lot of conversations on motherhood, but I really liked the push. So when I heard the buzz about her second book, I knew I wanted to pick it up. Again, it was very cheap on Book Outlet, so I love that. I just got this paperback. It's kind of big for a paperback, but happy that I got it for a good price. And also Chandler from Chandler Ainsley gave this 5 stars, which I was so shocked when she did that because she's not a very like thriller type reader. So when she goes out of her genre and gives a book that's not a romance, because that's her main books that she reads are romance, when she goes out of her comfort zone in her genre and she gives a book 5 stars, especially a thriller, I was like, okay, maybe The Whispers is actually going to be a really good one. So next up we have Adelaide by Genevieve Wheeler, and this is another one where I had never heard anybody talk about this book ever, but it is a lit fic romance. It's about like a toxic romance, and what really intrigued me is it's about an American woman who is now living in London and kind of her experience. And I, when I was debating on if I wanted to buy it or not, I looked up on Goodreads and it has a pretty high average rating, like it's close to a 4, and it was another lit fic to add to my shelf. So excited about that. Just excited about every freaking book I'm hauling. Obviously that's why I bought it. I'm excited to read it, but yeah, I think this one is going to be a winner. Okay, and the next book is going to be Salt Slow by Julia Armfield. This is her debut novel, I believe, but I did read Our Wives Under the Sea by the same author. I read this last year. Really creepy horror book, kind of half set in a submarine and you're at the bottom of the ocean, so pretty freaking terrifying. The ocean just terrifies me in general, but the writing style was really creepy. I gave this one 4 stars, and I want to try reading more short stories as well. I haven't read a lot of that kind of style of book, so when I read this book and I liked it, I looked up what else Julia Armfield had written, and that was Salt Slow. So I'm excited about this. It is tiny, it's a short story collection, and I know I like the author's writing, so it was kind of just an easy purchase for me to get. Okay, and then the next book is actually my current read. So it is The Writing Retreat by Julia Bartz, and this was, let's say it again for the people in the back, this was Books and Lala's book club pick. She has a book club called the Literally Dead Book Club, and I have never participated in her book club before, but sometimes she'll read the book and then talk about it in like vlogs or different videos. And this was, I think, one of her favorite books that she read for her book club last year, because every month they read like a horror or thriller book. It is set at a really creepy mansion with a group of writers and pretty close to the end. And the chapter that I just left off on, like, oh my god, it is getting insane. I think the creepy haunted mansion setting is really cool, and I kind of just did this on accident, but it's about a writing retreat, and these writers are going to this haunted mansion for the entire month of February. And I picked this up in February not knowing that it was like set in February. So that's kind of cool. Like literally the chapter that I read yesterday, they were talking about how it was Valentine's Day, and for me it was Valentine's Day like 2 days ago on Wednesday. I'm filming this on Friday, so that was just pretty interesting. I was like, oh my god, it was just Valentine's Day, and they were talking about that. But anyway, that doesn't really matter. It is just a thriller novel, and I'm having a really good time. Obviously I don't have a rating yet because I haven't finished it yet, and especially for a thriller, the last little like 20% or whatever that I have left kind of determines what I'm going to think about the book. But so far it's pretty good. It is reminding me a lot of 9 Perfect Strangers by Liane Moriarty. Read this a while ago and I really love this book. I believe I gave it 5 stars. If not, I gave it 4. But one of my favorite Liane Moriarty's. And if you liked this, I definitely would recommend this. They're giving the same vibes. This one is set at like a spa retreat, and this one is a writing retreat, but it's still like a group of strangers and suspicious things are happening. You know, what's going on? We'll find out. But yeah, really happy I picked this one up. I'm having a good time reading it right now. Happy that this one wasn't just sitting on my shelves for years and years and years, especially with thrillers. I feel like I'll haul them and then I forget that they exist. So, you know, I hauled this one last month and I'm already reading it, so little pat on the back for me. Okay, and then this is the last book that I got in that first Book Outlet box that I got in January. and it is The Portrait of a Mirror by Natasha Jovesky, maybe. I've heard really good reviews about this. It's a modern myth retelling. So, you know, it's set in our modern day, and the little blurb on the front says Gossip Girl meets The Secret History. And I love both of those things. I love Gossip Girl. I love The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I think this cover was really intriguing. That's what kind of drew me in when I was on the website. But then I looked it up and I just saw really good reviews. And honestly, the reviews on Goodreads are what made me put it in my cart and get it. So yeah, anyway, really excited to read this. Hopefully it doesn't sit on my shelf for years and years and years, but we will see. Excited. This next one I just got off of Amazon. That is the 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. So this is her sophomore novel. Her debut was The Dead Romantics, and I didn't read that book, but it was pretty popular like last year. The concept didn't interest me, so I didn't pick it up. But when this one came out, everyone is going nuts over this book. And again, I was like a little bit hesitant because they're like temporary roommates, but there's also a time travel element. Like, she goes into her living room and there's this guy standing there and he's 7 years from the past. So I think the house, you can either time travel 7 years in the future or 7 years in the past. And I don't know if I fully understand like the whole magic behind it, but it's not just a regular romance. Like, there's a time travel element, so that makes it interesting. And I've just heard such amazing things. Again, Chandler gave this 5 stars, and she is the romance queen, so if she gives something 5 stars, I'm like really intrigued. And also Chloe Bunny on BookTube, I am a part of her Patreon, and she has a buddy read every single month, and this is the buddy read for the month of February. So we're halfway through the month. It's like February 16th today, I believe, and I need to get on this and read this. I'll probably pick this up after the writing retreat if I'm honest. But yeah, I have heard only good things. Literally all my friends on Goodreads have given this 4 or 5 stars. Like, this is just a romance that seems to work for everybody. So that's fun. And also it has a magical realism element, so it's cool that it's just not just about the romance. There's also kind of the magic in it as well. So I am hopeful for this. And again, this is one that's not going to sit on my shelf for very long. I think it's going to be my next read. So I'm really excited and happy that I'm going to be reading this with everybody else on her Patreon as well. I'm, you know, in the Discord, so it's fun to be reading the current month's buddy read because you can go in there and like talk about your thoughts and feelings and be talking with people who are reading it right now too. So yeah. Anyway, a fun little romance. I'm happy I'm going to read it in the month of February, and happy that I will be part of the buddy read for this month. Okay, but those are all the books that I hauled in January. So now we get to go dive into the books that I'm going to haul this month in February. So we're going to start off with the Amazon box because this has 3 books in it. And I don't have a nice little box cutter, so we're just going to do... This has been sitting in my closet for like a couple weeks now. So anyway, gonna set it back over here. Okay, so the very first book in that Amazon box is going to be The Rachel Incident by Caroline Donahue. So I'm a part of Chloe's Patreon, and every month she does a buddy read with all of her members. And for the month of January, it was The Rachel Incident. So obviously I wasn't a part of the buddy read when everybody was reading it in January, but it's because I didn't own the book and I didn't know a lot about it. So I was like, I'm gonna see everybody's opinion and see if I want to get it. And everybody ended up really liking it. But it is set in Ireland, so it's giving me a little bit of Sally Rooney vibes from the synopsis and what people were saying. I just really felt like it was kind of like normal people, and also because it's about like unrequited love and it's kind of funny. So all of those things just made me really interested. And so when I heard everybody talking about it in the Discord, I just went on Amazon just out of curiosity to see how much it would be, which is a dangerous game because when I looked it up, normally adult hardbacks are $28, but when I looked it up, it was 50% off. I don't know why that day it was 50% off, but it was only $14, and I was like, it's 50% off. I can add it to my little adult lit fic shelf, which is just a reason I'm giving myself to buy books right now. Not that I ever need a reason or like a big thing to push me. Honestly, one person can be like, this book is amazing, you need to read it, and I'll fucking buy it. But I just heard really good things. It's set in Ireland. It's kind of giving Sally Rooney vibes, and I saw everybody in the Discord was loving it, and I was like, it's half off, which leads me into my next book, which is Talking at Night by Claire Daverly. So this is almost identical as the reason why I got the Rachel incident. This was Caitlin's buddy read for January, and again, I didn't own it, I didn't know a lot about it, so I wasn't a part of the buddy read in January, but I saw everybody in the Discord loving it, and Caitlin ended up giving it 5 stars. So when somebody who you trust their opinion of gives a book 5 stars, it makes you look at it a little differently, and I really trust Caitlin's opinion. I think she's a very like critical reader, and I've heard that it's a very like soft-spoken book about these really likable characters. It's a second chance romance, so that's really fun. And also the trope is, so this lady, her twin brother, the love interest is his best friend, and I kind of love that trope, you know, the brother's best friend trope. So yeah, all of those things made me really interested. But then when I looked up the Rachel incident, it was 50% off. And then I also decided to look this one up. Again, it was half off. This was $14. So both of these books were buddy reads that I missed out on, but I saw that they got good reviews, and I went to go look, and they were both half off. So I feel like I got 2 for the price of 1, and now I have both of the January buddy reads. I wasn't a part of the buddy reads, but still happy I got these nonetheless, and that's why I like being a part of book clubs and stuff like that, because even if you're not interested in the book right away, you can see everybody talking about it, and you know, if people say they love it, it's like, okay, well, might as well get this book. So, and then the last book in that little Amazon box is going to be The Will of Many by James Islington. He's the author of the Lacanius trilogy, which I have not read but is well beloved. Like, a lot of people love that trilogy, and I've heard this book is really good as well. So this is an adult fantasy novel, and it has like the magical school setting. So I love a magic school setting, and it's also very heavily inspired by ancient Rome. And I've heard this series compared a lot to the Red Rising series, which is one of my absolute favorite series of all time. I love Red Rising. So anything that's compared to Red Rising, I'm really intrigued by. I just saw a lot of people pick this up and love it. I think the cover is beautiful. And yeah, it's gonna be a series. This is book 1, so I just wanted to get it, and this was one of the books I wanted to get at the Barnes & Noble hardcover sale, but when I went to Barnes & Noble, they didn't have it in stock, and they were like, yeah, we don't have any of these in stock because the paperback is going to come out really soon, so nobody's ordering the hardcovers right now. And I want the hardcover, especially if it's like gonna be a series. I'll probably want all the books in hardcover if I end up loving it and buying the whole series. So yeah, I just wanted to get it. You know, I got these 2 books and I needed to get one more to get free shipping. You know, I was like, I could either pay $6 in shipping or I can get free shipping and throw another book in there. So this was the one I threw in, and happy that I got it. It was on my wish list for a couple of months, and then when I didn't get it at the Barnes & Noble sale, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna treat myself and get it on Amazon. And I think the cover is beautiful, and it's compared to Red Rising, so I was like, how can I not? But that's it for this box. And then one more before I leave ya. Of course, it's another book outlet order. So there are quite a few more in here because every time I buy off a book outlet, I get like 5 to 10 books, I swear to God. But we're just going to rip right into this one. This was the box I was waiting for to be delivered to film this video. So this was just delivered the other day, but it still took a lot of willpower to not open it. And the first book that I'm pulling out of that box is The New Me by Hallie Butler. So this is a cute little Penguins classic edition, a tiny little novel. This cover intrigued me, like this close-up eye and there's a fly on her head, like what's happening? But also I was looking at reviews and there was a person who rated it 2 stars, but their review made me want to buy it. I don't know if that ever happens to you where somebody's complaining about the book, but you read their complaints and you're like, you know, that actually sounds pretty interesting. But they were saying that it's a book about a pretentious, bitter person who is unenthusiastic about the mundanity of adulthood. And I was like, pretentious person who's like over being an adult. I don't know, I kind of am intrigued by that. But yeah, it's about a 30-year-old who just can't pull it together, spends her days working a thankless temp job and her nights alone in her apartment. So I think it's not going to be like a very uplifting novel, but I love books about pretentious people. I don't know why. I kind of like reading about unlikable characters. It just makes a book more interesting. If you love the character, sometimes it can be good. Depends on the genre. I think in a romance I want to like the characters, but sometimes it's nice to read about a pretentious lady, so. Hi! I am. Okay, so this next one I had never heard of before until I watched Witty Novels, or Whitney. She was doing a video best book she read in 2023, like everybody on freaking BookTube does, and that's also, I feel like, part of the reason why I buy so many books in like January and February, because all of these videos come out of people reading or talking about the best books that they read in the year before, and it just makes you want to buy all those freaking books. Like, I love that video. It introduces you to a lot of new books. But anyway, the way that Whitney did her video was she talked about all of her new favorites, but she put them in from like least favorites to her most favorite book that she read, and her number one book was a book that I had never heard of before. It was Forget Me Not by Julie Soto. So I really align my taste with her. Me and Whitney have very, very similar reading tastes. So when her number one book of last year was a book I had never heard about, it just immediately was on my radar and I wanted to read it. And then I was scrolling on Book Outlet and I saw it. I think I got it for like $5 or less, this little paperback, and I was like, it was her favorite book of last year, like I have to. So as you can tell, it's a romance. From the cover, you can just see that it's a romance. The main character is a wedding planner and the main guy is a florist, and they're exes, but they have to work together for like the wedding of the year. Apparently this wedding can like make or break her career as a wedding planner. So yeah, it's like exes who have to work together to plan this beautiful wedding. And I don't know, just the way that Whitney was talking about it really made me excited to read it. I was just really, really intrigued. Honestly, I don't love the cover. I don't love romance books that have like pictures of the couple like up front and center like this. Like, the cover kind of made me like, ugh, but it was her favorite book of last year. And also the blurb on the top is from Ali Hazelwood. I like Ali Hazelwood's writing, and she said, Julie Soto is my favorite writer, period. I'll read anything she writes and love every second of it. So Julie Soto is Ali Hazelwood's favorite romance author, or favorite author in general, and I really like Ali Hazelwood's books, so maybe I'll like this. And then next up is Bright Young Women by Jessica Knoll. There's an annoying sticker on here. Sometimes this happens because, you know, you're buying it off Book Outlet. I'll peel that off later, just can't do it right now. But this book is about a very famous American serial killer. I've heard that a very big point of this book is to not talk about the serial killers by their name. So it's a very popular serial killer, but I'm not going to give him the satisfaction of giving him a name. But yeah, apparently you're following these two women who are like on the pursuit of the truth about this serial killer. It's set in the 70s, 1978, and yeah, if you know a lot about serial killers, a serial killer escaped in Aspen, Colorado, and he was like a sorority killer. So yeah, very famous serial killer, but it's not necessarily about him. It's about these two women and how they are on the mission for the truth. I think it talks about like the incompetency of the police system and the justice system sometimes, and how people can get away with a lot if they are attractive or if they are charming, like this particular serial killer was. So yeah, just very excited, heard good things. Okay, and we are almost at the end. This is my second to last book, but next up we have Throne of the Fallen by Carrie Maniscalco. This is a fantasy romance, an adult novel by Carrie Maniscalco. I have quite a few of her YA novels. I have the Stalking Jack the Ripper series, and I have Kingdom of the Wicked. So I actually own 5 Carrie Maniscalco books. This will be number 6. Have I ever read one? No. And I'm a little ashamed to say that, but it's just because I'm not reading a lot of YA fantasy right now. So if this was a YA book, I promise I wouldn't have bought it. But this is her first adult novel. That intrigues me. Also, Lala and Chandler gave it 4 stars. Pretty sure the main guy character is the Prince of Envy. Don't even know what that means, but I'm excited to figure it out. Like, I love a big chunky fantasy romance, especially one that is put out by a well-beloved author and received well. You know, this was very hyped last year in 2023, and I waited to buy it because I have a lot of her books I haven't read, but also because I wanted to see what the general consensus was. And from people that I watch, it's, you know, a good 4 or 5 read. So yeah, excited to read it. It is chunkier than I thought it was. It's a pretty big book, but I love a fantasy romance. I always have fun with them, so definitely don't regret it. And, you know, I might start my Carrie Maniscalco journey here, and if I read this and I'm obsessed with her writing and I love it, maybe I'll actually read some of the books that I own from her that I haven't read yet. I mean, fingers crossed, maybe that's hopeful thinking. But, you know, sometimes I read a book and I fall in love with that author's writing and I just want to read everything they've ever written. So if that's the case, I have some books from her that I can do that with. Or, you know, maybe the opposite will happen. I'll read this and I'll hate her writing and I'll get rid of those. Either way, I'm hoping those books will come off my physical TBR either by reading them or by unhauling them, but we'll see. This is probably where I'll start with Carrie Maniscalco, and I'm just hoping that I really like it. And then the final book of this book haul is going to be Mame by Jessica George. So this book is kind of a coming of age story, but most coming of age stories are about like people in their young 20s who are discovering adulthood for the first time and just trying to figure out their life. And this main character, I believe she's in her late 20s or early 30s. It's still a coming of age story because for her adult life so far, she has been the primary caretaker of her father, who has Parkinson's, and her mother lives in Africa, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, her mother lives in Ghana, but then her mother moves back to America, and now she is like free to do what she wants and, you know, be her own person. So, you know, it's about somebody who has only known being a caretaker, and now she's a little bit of a late bloomer, but it's still a coming of age story, and I really just love coming of age stories. Also, I think this was the book that I had to get for free shipping, so yeah, excited about this one. Yeah, that was the last of the book outlet box, and that is the end of this haul. So now I need to find places on my shelves for all of these books. That was 17 books that I just hauled, and I think so far this year I've read like 15 books. So I do haul more books than I read, but at least I am reading what I can, and I've already started one of them. So making good progress. But yeah, thank you so much for coming along with me. All of my socials are linked down below like always, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!